I sat alone in that cold chemotherapy chair staring at the empty seat beside me. The IV drip fed poison into my veins to kill the cancer, but nothing could kill the memory of Madison's promise. She said she would be here every step of the way. She said we would fight this together. But that was before Derek came back into her life. That was before she left me 2 days ago, with nothing but a handwritten note on our kitchen counter. Before we continue, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you believe in karma, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story will show you how the universe works in mysterious ways. If you have ever felt abandoned when you needed someone most, this story might hit close to home. Let us dive in. Meeting Madison 3 years ago felt like finding the missing piece of my life. It was a rainy afternoon in October at this small coffee shop on Hawthorne Boulevard in Portland. I was working on my laptop debugging some terrible code for the software company I worked for as an engineer. She walked in shaking raindrops from her auburn hair, laughing with a friend about something I could not hear. When our eyes met across that crowded room, something just clicked. We started talking that day. She was an elementary school teacher at a public school in Southeast Portland teaching 2nd grade. She loved her job, loved those kids more than anything. I loved how passionate she was about everything. We spent that whole afternoon talking about our dreams, our favorite hiking trails in the Columbia River Gorge, our shared obsession with bad 80s movies. Our relationship grew naturally. We hiked Angel's Rest on weekends, cooked elaborate dinners together on Sunday nights, planned road trips down the California coast. Madison would grade papers while I coded on our couch, her feet tucked under my leg, comfortable silence filling our apartment. She told me once, lying in bed after watching the sunset from Mount Tabor, that she wanted to build a life with me. Through everything she said, those words meant the world to me. She mentioned her ex Derek sometimes. He had left her 2 years before we met, moved to Seattle for some job opportunity, without even asking if she wanted to come. She said it broke her heart back then, but she was over it. She said meeting me was the best thing that ever happened to her. I believed every word. I had no reason not to. Then March of last year arrived and changed everything. I started feeling exhausted in ways I had never experienced before. Not just tired from work, but bone-deep fatigue that sleep could not fix. I would climb one flight of stairs at my office building and need to sit down breathing hard. My chest felt tight. Food stopped tasting right. Madison noticed before I did how much weight I was losing. She stood behind me one morning while I buttoned my shirt, her hands on my shoulders, and said quietly that my clothes were hanging off me. When I stepped on the scale, I had lost 15 pounds in 2 months without trying. That scared me more than the exhaustion. She drove me to the doctor that week. We sat in that sterile waiting room holding hands while I filled out forms about my medical history. The doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Shaw, listened to my symptoms with a concerned expression. She ordered blood work, a chest X-ray, and a CT scan. The tests came back within days. I will never forget sitting in that small exam room when Dr. Shaw came in with my results. Madison squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. Stage 2, non-small cell lung cancer, Dr. Shaw said. The tumor was in my right lung. I was 32 years old. I had never smoked a single cigarette in my life. The room spun. Madison started crying immediately, her tears falling onto our clasped hands. Dr. Shaw explained that sometimes these things just happen. Environmental factors, genetic predisposition, random terrible luck. She said we would fight this together. Chemotherapy would start as soon as possible, aggressive treatment to shrink the tumor before considering surgery. She gave us pamphlets, websites, support group information. Everything became a blur of medical terminology and statistics I did not want to hear. We walked to the parking lot in silence. Madison stopped beside my car, turned to face me, and wrapped her arms around my waist. She pressed her face against my chest and sobbed. I held her, feeling numb, staring at the gray Portland sky. When she finally looked up at me, mascara running down her cheeks, she said she would be here every step. She promised. She would not let me go through this alone. My first chemotherapy session was in mid-April. Madison took the day off work. She packed a bag with magazines, snacks, a blanket from our couch. We arrived at the cancer center at 8 in the morning. The nurses were kind, explaining every step as they inserted the IV port into my arm. The chemicals dripped slowly into my bloodstream for 4 hours. Madison sat beside me the entire time, reading articles out loud, making me laugh with silly voices, holding my hand when nausea hit. The side effects were worse than I imagined. I spent the next 3 days barely able to lift my head from the pillow. Everything I ate came back up. My whole body ached. Madison called in sick to work, stayed home to take care of me. She brought me ginger tea, plain crackers, cool washcloths for my forehead. She rubbed my back when I got sick, never complaining, never showing anything but love. The second and third sessions followed the same pattern. Madison was there, my constant support. My hair started falling out in clumps in the shower. I cried the first time watching it swirl down the drain. Madison found me sitting on the bathroom floor, held me, told me I was still handsome, still strong, still hers. She even shaved my head herself that night, making jokes to keep me from breaking down completely. But something shifted before the fourth session. Small things at first. Madison started checking her phone more often, smiling at messages she would not show me. She had a parent-teacher conference she could not miss. She said so her mom would drive me to chemotherapy instead. Her mom was wonderful, but it was not the same. I told myself Madison was stressed, that watching someone you love suffer takes a toll. I tried not to be selfish. The fifth session, she said she needed to help her mom with something urgent. A friend from college would pick me up afterward. The sixth session, she just did not show up at all. I called her phone 6 times that morning. Every call went to voicemail. I did the intake paperwork alone, sat in that chair alone, went through 4 hours of poison alone. The nurses kept asking if someone was coming. I kept saying she was just running late. The nausea that day was brutal. I threw up twice during the treatment. My head pounded so hard I could barely see straight. When the session finished at 1 in the afternoon, I stumbled to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and called an Uber because I could not reach Madison. The driver helped me into his car, concerned, asking if I needed a hospital. I told him I just needed to get home. I made it through the front door of our apartment at 4 in the evening, shaking, barely able to stand. Madison's car was not in the driveway. The apartment was dark and silent. I walked to the kitchen to get water and saw it. A single piece of notebook paper folded on the counter, my name written on the outside in Madison's handwriting. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I sat down at the kitchen table before opening it, because something in my gut knew this was bad. The letter was 2 pages long, front and back, her neat teacher handwriting filling every line. She wrote that she could not do this anymore. Watching me go through chemotherapy was too hard for her. She could not handle seeing me sick, seeing me weak, not knowing if I would survive. Derek had reached out to her 2 months ago, she wrote. He apologized for leaving her years before. He said he made a mistake. He wanted her back. Derek was healthy, she wrote. Derek was stable. Derek could give her the life she deserved. She said I deserved someone stronger than her, someone who could handle this kind of pain. She was sorry she was not strong enough. She was leaving Portland, moving to Seattle to be with Derek. She did not leave a new phone number. She did not want me to contact her. She hoped I would understand someday. I read that letter 3 times sitting at our kitchen table as the sun set outside. Each time felt like getting hit by a truck. She left me on the same day as my 6th chemotherapy session. She left me when I needed her most. She left me for the man who abandoned her 2 years ago. None of it made sense. All of it hurt worse than any cancer ever could. I do not remember much about the rest of that night. I think I cried. I think I threw up again, though I could not tell if that was from the chemo or from the heartbreak. I woke up the next morning on the couch, still wearing the same clothes, Madison's letter crumpled on the floor beside me. The following weeks were the darkest period of my life. I had 2 more chemotherapy sessions scheduled. My oncologist, Dr. Shah, said stopping treatment was not an option if I wanted to survive. So I kept going. But I went alone. My family lived across the country in upstate New York. I grew up in a small town near Albany. My parents died in a car accident 5 years ago, a drunk driver on a winter road. My older sister lived in Boston with her husband and 3 kids. My younger brother was deployed overseas with the Marines. They all knew about my cancer, offered to come help, but I told them not to. I told them Madison was taking care of me. I told them I was fine. I was not fine. My best friend Marcus lived in Portland, just 20 minutes away. He worked construction, had a wife and a 2-year-old daughter. When I finally told him what Madison did, he wanted to drive to Seattle and confront her himself. I told him to let it go. He started coming by every few days, bringing takeout food I could not eat, sitting with me even when I did not want company. I drove myself to chemotherapy sessions 7 and 8. Both times I nearly passed out on the drive home. The tumor was shrinking. Dr. Shah said the treatment was working, but the side effects were cumulative. I lost another 10 pounds. My reflection in the mirror showed a stranger with hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, skin the color of old paper. My hair was completely gone. I looked like a ghost. The nights were the worst. I would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Madison smile. I heard her laugh. I remembered her promise that she would stay. Then I would remember Derek, imagine them together in Seattle, imagine him holding her the way I used to. The jealousy and pain mixed with the physical agony from chemo until I could not tell them apart. I kept asking myself what I did wrong. Was I not grateful enough for her help? Did I complain too much? Was I too weak, too sick, too much of a burden? Maybe Derek was better than me. Maybe she made the right choice. Maybe I was not worth loving when things got hard. Marcus found me one night sitting on my apartment floor at 2 a.m, crying into my hands. He sat down beside me, did not say anything for a long time, just put his arm around my shoulders. Finally, he said that Madison showed her true colors. He said anyone who leaves during the fight was never really in the fight at all. He said I was stronger than I knew. I wanted to believe him. Some days I did. Most days I did not. The cancer support group at the hospital saved me in ways I did not expect. Dr. Shah had recommended it after my first session, but I had not gone because Madison said we did not need it. After she left, I had no one else, so I went. Every Tuesday evening, 10 or 12 of us would sit in a circle in a conference room sharing our stories, our fears, our small victories. There was a woman named Mrs. Henderson, 74 years old, fighting her second round of breast cancer. She had lost her husband the year before. She told me once that survival is the best revenge. She said living well, refusing to give up, that was how you won. Her words stuck with me more than anything else. I started keeping a journal, writing down everything I felt. The anger, the sadness, the physical pain, but also the small good things. A decent meal. A day without nausea. A good scan result. I wrote about Madison, sometimes trying to make sense of what happened. I never did make sense of it. But writing helped me let go piece by piece. 3 months after she left, I got my scan results back. The tumor had shrunk by 60%. Dr. Shah was thrilled. She said my body was responding beautifully to the treatment. If this continued, I might be cancer-free within 6 more months. I cried in her office, but this time from relief and hope instead of despair. Marcus took me out to dinner that night to celebrate. We went to this burger place we used to love before I got sick, before everything fell apart. I managed to eat half a burger and some fries. It was the most I had eaten in one sitting in months. Marcus raised his beer, said he was proud of me. I raised my water glass and clinked it against his bottle. For the first time since Madison left, I felt like maybe I would be okay. My final chemotherapy session was in mid-January, 9 months after my diagnosis. I drove myself there one last time, sat in that familiar chair, watched the familiar IV drip for 4 hours. The nurses threw me a little party afterward, brought cookies and juice, took pictures. They said I was one of the strongest patients they had ever seen. I did not feel strong. I felt exhausted and grateful and ready to be done. The scan 2 weeks later changed everything. Dr. Shah called me into her office with the results pulled up on her computer screen. She turned the monitor toward me, pointed at the images of my lungs. No tumor. No cancer cells. Complete remission. I was cancer-free. I sat in that chair staring at those scans and started sobbing. Dr. Shaw came around her desk, hugged me while I cried into her shoulder. She said I did this. My body fought. I showed up for every treatment even when it was hard. I survived. She scheduled follow-up scans every 3 months to monitor for any recurrence, but for now I was healthy. Marcus picked me up from the appointment because I called him the second I got out, voice shaking, barely able to speak through my tears. He drove straight to my place, brought his wife and daughter. We had an impromptu celebration in my living room. His daughter, sweet little Emma, kept touching my head where hair was finally starting to grow back in short, fuzzy patches. She said I looked like a fuzzy peach. We all laughed until our sides hurt. I went back to work part-time in February. My company had been incredibly supportive, holding my position, letting me work remotely when I could. My coworkers threw me a welcome back party with a banner and cake. I cried again. I was crying a lot those days, but now from happiness and gratitude instead of pain. My hair grew back different, slightly darker with some gray that was not there before. I gained weight slowly, my clothes fitting properly again. I started hiking short trails on weekends, rebuilding my strength. Every morning I woke up without nausea, felt like a miracle. I had survived cancer. I had survived heartbreak. I had survived the worst year of my life completely alone, and I was still standing. I thought about Madison sometimes. Less as time passed, but she still crossed my mind. I wondered if she ever thought about me, if she felt guilty, if she was happy with Derek. Mostly, I just felt nothing. Not anger anymore. Not sadness. Just empty space where she used to be. I had moved on. Then one afternoon in late February, I was sitting at a coffee shop downtown, the same one where Madison and I met 3 years before. I came here sometimes, reclaiming spaces that used to be ours, making them mine again. My phone buzzed with a message from Jenna, a mutual friend of ours from the teaching community. Madison and I had hung out with Jenna and her husband a few times for dinners and game nights. The message said Jenna did not know if I wanted to hear this, but she thought I should know what happened to Madison. My stomach dropped. I almost did not read the rest. But curiosity won. Jenna explained that Madison and Derek had moved to Seattle right after she left me. They got an apartment in Capitol Hill, Derek's neighborhood. For a few months, everything seemed good based on Madison's social media. Pictures of them at Pike Place Market, hiking in the Cascades, smiling together. Madison had gotten a teaching job at a school near their apartment. But around 6 months in, things changed. Derek started working late constantly. He stopped posting pictures with Madison. When Jenna texted Madison to check in, Madison's responses were short, vague. Something was off. Then in December, just 2 months ago, Jenna saw photos on Instagram of Derek in Hawaii. He was tagged in posts by a woman named Angela, someone from his office. The pictures showed them on beaches, at restaurants, clearly more than friends. Madison was not in any of the photos. Madison had not mentioned any Hawaii trip. Jenna said Madison called her crying a few days before Christmas. Madison had confronted Derek about the Hawaii trip, about Angela. Derek did not even try to deny it. He told Madison she was too clingy, too needy, too much. He said Angela understood him better. Angela was fun, easygoing, did not complain. He wanted Madison out of the apartment by New Year. The apartment was in Derek's name. Madison had quit her teaching job mid-year to move to Seattle with him, burned that bridge. She had no place to live, no job, no savings, because she had been splitting everything with Derek. She had to move back to Portland, back in with her mother, devastated and broken. She had not found a new teaching position yet. Jenna said Madison was struggling, falling into depression, barely leaving the house. Jenna ended her message saying karma really got Madison. She asked if I felt satisfied, if justice felt good. I stared at my phone for a long time, reading and rereading everything. I did not feel satisfied. I did not feel vindicated or happy about Madison's pain. I felt nothing close to joy. Instead, I felt a strange, calm sense of closure. The universe had taught Madison the exact lesson I never could. She learned what it felt like to be abandoned by someone she loved and trusted. She learned what betrayal tasted like. She learned that Derek, the man she thought was better than me, was exactly who he had always been, someone who left when things got complicated. I did not need to do anything. I did not need revenge or confrontation or justice. Life took care of it all by itself. Madison got back exactly what she gave. Maybe that was karma. Maybe that was just the natural consequence of her choices. Either way, it was not my problem anymore. 1 week later, an email appeared in my inbox. The sender was Madison. The subject line said, "I am so sorry, Leon, please let me explain." I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. The email was long, emotional, full of apologies. She wrote that leaving me was the biggest mistake of her life. She was a coward. She took the easy way out when things got hard. She chose Derek because she was scared, because watching me suffer was too painful, because she thought he would give her the simple, comfortable life she wanted. But Derek did to her exactly what she did to me. He left her the moment someone easier came along. Now she understood my pain. Now she knew what I went through. She was so sorry. Oh. She wanted to apologize in person. She asked if we could meet for coffee, talk things through. She said, maybe we could start over. She said she would be better this time. She promised. I read the email 3 times sitting at my desk in my apartment. The first time I felt a flash of anger. The second time I felt sad for her. The third time I felt absolutely nothing. I opened a new email and started typing my response. I kept it short. I wrote that I appreciated her apology. I told her I forgave her not because she deserved it, but because carrying anger was too heavy. I was done carrying heavy things. What she did to me taught me that I was stronger than I ever knew. I survived cancer and heartbreak completely alone. I learned I did not need anyone to validate my worth. I learned I could save myself. I told her I did not wish her harm. I genuinely hoped she would be okay, that she would learn from this, that she would treat the next person better. But I also told her clearly that I did not want her back in my life. That door was closed. What we had was gone. I had moved on. She needed to move on too. I ended the email with a simple "take care of yourself." I hit send before I could second guess it. Then I blocked her email address, her phone number, all her social media profiles. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. I did not need to know what happened to her next. I did not need updates or explanations or anything else from her. I needed peace. The relief I felt after sending that email was profound. Like setting down a backpack full of rocks I had been carrying for months. Madison was part of my past, a painful chapter that taught me important lessons, but she was not part of my future. I was finally completely free. Life continued moving forward. I went back to work full-time in March. My 3-month scan showed no signs of cancer returning. My hair grew back fully, thicker than before. I gained back all the weight I lost, started working out at a gym near my apartment. I looked healthy again. I felt healthy again. I started volunteering at the cancer center where I received treatment, visiting with current patients, offering support and hope. Mrs. Henderson from my support group introduced me to her granddaughter Sophia, who had survived breast cancer 3 years earlier. Sophia was 29, a graphic designer, funny and kind and beautiful. She understood what surviving cancer meant without me having to explain. We started spending time together. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, turned into long weekend hikes. Sophia had her own scars, her own story of survival. We did not rush anything. We just enjoyed being together, 2 people who understood that life was fragile and precious and worth fighting for. I learned something crucial through everything that happened. True love stays. True strength comes from within. People who walk away when you need them most were never really yours to begin with. Madison leaving was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of understanding my own worth. I do not think about Madison anymore. Not with anger or sadness or anything else. She is just a person I used to know, someone who taught me hard lessons I am grateful for now. Derek did not steal her from me. He did me a favor. He showed me who she really was before I wasted more years finding out. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened. Getting cancer was horrible. Being abandoned during treatment was horrible. But both experiences stripped away everything false in my life, and left only what was real. My strength, my resilience, my ability to survive anything life threw at me. I am cancer-free now. I am happy now. I have people in my life who stayed, who showed up, who proved their love through actions instead of empty words. Marcus is still my best friend, calling me every week to check in. Sophia and I are taking things slow, building something real and honest. My health is good. My future is bright. Madison sent me one more email 6 months after my first response. I saw it in my spam folder where all her messages now went automatically. The subject line said, "I understand now and I am sorry." I deleted it without reading it. I did not need her understanding or her apologies anymore. I had everything I needed. I survived cancer. I survived betrayal. I learned that the person who walks away when you need them most was never meant to walk beside you at all. The right people will stay. The wrong ones will teach you why you never needed them in the first place. That is not just something I believe. That is something I know for certain, carved into my bones by experience, proven true by my survival. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had someone walk away when you needed them most? How did you find the strength to keep going? Drop your answer in the comments below, because I would love to hear your stories. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they are stronger than they think. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that survival is possible, that karma is real, and that your worth is not determined by who stays or leaves. Take care of yourself and remember, you are enough exactly as you are.